So welcome to the Trends in AI interview series live from Hannover Messe, the largest European industrial fair. And today I'm here with Luke Effenberger. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
And Luke is a pre-sales engineer at Aleph Alpha, one of the leading European AI companies. So we have our continental AI champions. Yeah, first of all, maybe for those internationally, not everybody is familiar with Aleph Alpha. Can you explain very briefly what your company does?
Of course. So Aleph Alpha was founded in 2019 by our founders Jonas Anrulis and Samuel Weinbach. And in the beginning, they researched on large language models. That was before the big ChatGPT hype. And then 2 years ago, in 2023, we received quite a big funding for European comparisons from the Schwarz Group, from Bosch, from SAP, so different German enterprises, to help the industry master the AI transformation in a sovereign way.
Yeah. And what do you do now for your customers?
So today we help them develop their AI use cases with the help of our development stack, Pharia AI.
Yeah.
So Pharia AI is a tool stack composed out of all the different things that you need if you actually want to build successful applications based on large language models.
Yeah.
Because this is not just a large language model, you need much more for that. And for that, we build like all the components. In this whole process, we believe like a big obstacle when it comes to realizing value with AI stems from the communication problems between the IT departments and the business units.
Yeah.
And this is like something that is very deeply ingrained in our development stack, making it easier to collect feedback, making it easier to evaluate, and helping companies realize use case by use case to actually get forward with the AI transformation.
Yeah, and so that's in some sense quite a shift to the initial positioning of Aleph Alpha, because you were one of the foundational model developers, right? You had with Luminis your own foundational model, and you've pivoted away from that, right? That got quite a lot of publicity. So how is, let's say, your new approach, how is that developing?
This was actually kind of miscommunicated a little bit in the media. So we still have our own large language model.
Yeah, and you use that also in this Pharia stack.
Yes, we now have like our newest generation is called Pharia 1 LLM. So that's the large language model in Pharia AI. The reason that we shifted our focus, let's say, from just large language model development to building applications or helping companies build applications on large language models with the help of our development stack, is that we've seen over the last 2 years that the jumps in AI capabilities did not really translate to jumps in the AI adoption in the industry. And so we figured there are different things that are the obstacles of like getting AI into production. We often see many companies doing many POCs. Usually we talk to our clients, we talk to the biggest enterprises in Germany, and they have like 700 POCs. And if you ask them, okay, how many of them are actually in production? It's like 2.
Yeah.
Right? And so like there's something else going on. And this is why we shifted our focus. We are not really pivoting away from large language models. We still develop them. We still have an active research group. But right now, we believe this is where the biggest value gains can be made. And right now, in our platform, we enable our clients to use our own large language model and also use open source large language models, like, for example, Llama.
Yeah.
Because in the end, we believe right now, like there are different large language models that are suitable for different parts of the system, of the AI systems that you want to build. And we put a lot of focus in our development on evaluating. And once you have this figured out, how do you evaluate your AI systems? It becomes very easy to just like benchmark all the different large language models and just pick the one that's the best for your use case. Often in our applications, we actually mix different large language models for the different steps.
Makes sense. And so for AI enthusiasts and engineers, what are like the, let's say, the coolest technical capabilities of your platform?
So I start with two that come to mind. Number one is attention manipulation, or short AdMan. That's a paper that we released, published at NeurIPS, I think 2 years ago. And it allows us to understand on a deeper level why a large language model behaves the way it does. It does that by analyzing basically how does the output change if I do little changes in the input. And we do this by manipulating actually the attention blocks within the transformer architecture. And this allows us to really understand better what AI does. AI is, after all, a black box. And with this, we can, on the one hand, better debug AI applications or like optimize them in a targeted way, but also build better user experiences, because we can actually provide users with the insights of like, why did the AI answer this? So often in the very complex business processes that we work on with our clients, or that our clients work on, it is not that much that we want the AI to actually give us the answer. We want the AI to help a human who works with the AI to understand the problem and understand the solution. This is number one. And number two is the T3 architecture. That's the newest development.
T3, like T, letter T.
T3 exactly stands for tokenizer-free architecture.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea is that the way large language models are built right now is in a way fundamentally broken at its level, because translating words first into tokens basically breaks up the semantics. The way I think about it is, after that, the semantics basically need to be recovered from the large language model.
Right.
Like if you have a word like running and like then you capitalize one N, this turns up to be like completely different tokens. And so that it's actually the same word needs to be learned after, like behind that, by the embedding syntax.
Right. On the other hand, it's quite practical that everything is a token, right? Because you can also use this to, for example, build multimodal systems where image patches are tokens or audio codec tokens are embedded.
Yes, that's true. To be honest, like there I'm probably a bit like out of the loop on like how exactly it works. I'm not a researcher anymore. But what we've seen in our testing is that with this architecture, we can train large language models on certain, for example, learning a new language in a much faster way. For example, with the tests where we took a primarily English-trained large language model and we trained it to learn Finnish. And with the T3 architecture, this goes much, much faster and more efficiently than with a normal architecture. And what we are right now doing is evaluating this with different clients in the industry on real industry data. And we believe that this could be actually a big step forward in allowing companies to train their own large language models on their custom language and the way they speak, right? Because every company in
the generative models, basically.
Generative models, large language models, because every company is its own cosmos in the way, with like their own abbreviations, their own languages. And that's what we are testing right now.
What we're also seeing a lot in the field is that actually the progress, like the quality progress of the frontier language models, is going so fast that efforts to fine-tune language models, the generative part, right? Maybe for retrieval it makes sense, but for the generative part, the quality of, let's say, the latest and greatest GPT-4o or Gemini 2.5 is so much better than, let's say, even Llama of half a year ago, that fine-tuning Llama and just taking the latest frontier model don't really match up. How do you see that?
I think that's true. Like for the industry use cases, no, and that's what we focus on, right? In my opinion, like there are basically two angles on how you can approach integrating AI into your daily work. One is by using chatbots to just be flexible and just like kind of also find your own way of like where are tasks that you can use it for. And the other way is like actually looking at your like business critical processes and trying to accelerate them. For the flexible part, of course, you need these frontier models because they are the ones that actually understand you and can.
Like for building agents and stuff. It's
not for building agents. It's more for like when you really want to be flexible. I want to be able to like talk to the same model and ask it to analyze a contract.
No, I mean for like building agents, if you, for example, if you have a decision to make which tool to use or which sub-agent to use, these are actually quite complex decisions.
Or maybe that, yes, exactly. Yes, like basically the kind of operator.
Yeah.
Orchestrator
Usually you want to have a very strong model for the operator, and maybe some tasks are more like simple, and you can use cheaper models.
And that's exactly the point that we then for the processes where we can say, okay, this scales across the whole business department or across the whole enterprise. We can then like their price becomes a really important point. This is also one reason why a lot of times the POCs don't really make it to production, because then someone looks at what this actually costs, only calculates the business case after, and then says, actually, this doesn't make that much sense, right? And this is like maybe also brings us to what we are presenting here today at Hannover Messe, is how can we actually in the industries identify like specific processes and just like accelerate them by, let's say, 20, 30, 40%. It's a very different approach than what you have from other more B2C focused AI companies that focus on exactly this chatbot approach, which is absolutely fair. That's like also one approach to the whole transformation. But the other one is to actually accelerate specific processes, like, for example, generating tests out of requirements. This is something that happens thousands and thousands of times every day throughout Germany, hundreds of companies. If we can build a solution that does this in a robust way,
for code tests,
for coding tests, but also hardware testing. So if you develop a new ADAS system, and in the end you have your catalog of requirements, and you need to now like you have a test engineer then who actually takes these requirements, develops tests, and in the end you have like a tester who drives with the car and needs to do these tests. And this happens again and again, and it's still a very manual process. And so if we can actually build a solution that is robust and stable and accelerates that by 30%, and this is what we've seen in our case studies, this can make actually a huge impact on the German European industries.
And how do you, so one of the discussions here at the Hannover Messe has really been about digital sovereignty, right? I mean, it's April 4 today. We have, a tariff tsunami spreading from the US. One comment is we can happily trade with each other. They're just, shooting themselves in the foot. Anyway, that's not a discussion we want to have right now. But how do you see, like, what kind of reactions do you get here at your booth with Aleph Alpha on digital sovereignty? And what does it actually mean in practice?
Yes. So what changed over the last, let's say, months since the inauguration is that the story that we've been telling for over a year now, suddenly people understand much more easily. So sovereignty for us has two components. One is, let's say, political. The other is more
operational
and like business topic. So let's start with the political. Politically, Europe should, of course, be in a way independent from the US mainly, but also from China. Right? We need to be able to like actually in this whole AI transformation somehow play a role that is not just like an export place for AI products. Right? That's the one hand. But much more importantly, and that's what we focus a lot on, is the operational sovereignty of companies. And that, in that aspect, it's first of all not really that important where the AI company is located. It's much more about in this AI transformation. More and more business processes will go into artificial intelligence, right? There are different opinions on how long this is going to take, right? Some say
I think it's going to go very fast.
Like 10 or 20 years, whatever. But like at some point, businesses will have probably like most of their knowledge work, their like digital work, have in AI systems. And if this is behind an API call into like some other company, then this means 60, 70% maybe of your value creation suddenly is within another company. And this would also allow this company to raise the prices in a way that they basically take the 60 or 70% of the profits that you need. The money to develop these kind of AI tools that could actually take all of these processes inside comes from the US. Right? This is like, we don't have currently this ecosystem and this money in Europe, but we do have like all these champions that have like the power to actually continue to create enterprises. And what we want them to, we want to enable them to do this in a sovereign way, so they don't need to like bring all their business processes and all the automation into the American hyperscalers. but rather we provide with Pharia AI the foundational stack on which you can develop your use cases, and then you can, it's Kubernetes based, so you can then put it everywhere. So
it's cloud agnostic in that sense.
Exactly. If you right now are with AWS, that's fine. We also, like, in the end, and that's maybe another comment, like politically, like we are of course also not happy about this development. It helps to tell our story much easier, but in the end, it's good if we do have dependencies, mutual dependencies between the US and Europe, right? And we now have like the possibility to develop then AI use cases, or our clients have the possibility to develop AI use cases on, let's say, AWS, but then move the whole stack away to Azure or to our infrastructure partner, Stackit, which is from the Schwarzgroup, the cloud that is now being built in Germany.
Which is also one of your investors,
exactly.
Right?
Schwarzgroup is one of our investors, and we partner with them, and are also right now looking into how can we bring these technologies also to the German Mittelstand, for example.
Right. So definitely it has increased the interest in European AI companies. So I think that's great for the European AI ecosystem. I have one last question, which is kind of itching me, and I have to ask. I don't know if you have a good answer, but obviously our company names Zeta Alpha and Aleph Alpha have a lot of similarity. So I always tell the story why I call the company Zeta Alpha, but I'm really curious, why is the company called Aleph Alpha?
So to be honest, I'm also not fully educated on that. We actually discussed this again today in the team. So what I know is that Aleph basically is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So it's like, in a way, alpha.
Yeah.
I believe in the end it has something to do with some formula where like alpha plays a role that comes from machine learning. I do know like the basic formulas from the deep learning times when I was a teacher, lecturer. But to be honest, I don't know which equation it refers to. Maybe do you have an idea?
I don't know.
Why is it zeta alpha?
So why is zeta alpha? Well, I'd like to joke that if you want to solve a problem using AI, you have to start thinking about the end result first. What is the outcome that you actually want to achieve, which is at the end, is the Z. And only then should you go back to the beginning, which is how you technologically solve it with AI. So that's my story. But it's a good story, but it's actually not entirely true, because if you look at the first two letters of my last name, you get the real reason.
Okay, cool, very cool.
Yeah. All right, Luke, thanks for the interview. Yeah, enjoy the last day of the Hanover Messe. Thanks for joining us for this interview. And yeah, we'll be coming back with more episodes for Trends in AI by Zeta Alpha soon.